Hi, I'm Carolyn Evans-Hammond and welcome to my tasting room. Carolyn's tasting room is where you can taste exciting wines with me. And tonight we feature wines for fall entertaining in a range of styles. They include the 2022 Collavini Villa Canlungo Peno Gggio DOC from Italy, the 2020 Ghost Pines Winemaker's Blend Chardonnay from California, the 2021 Collavini Villa Canlungo Cabernet Sauvignon, an IGT wine from Italy, and the 2021 Orin Swift Palermo Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa. So let's taste. So the first wine in our flight is a Peno Gggio. Now, a light, lively Peno Gggio is very easy to serve when you're having that casual drop-in because you want a wine that just refreshes, that you don't have to think too much about, but will absolutely refresh everybody. So you keep this, chill it down, and have it on hand. So let's taste. Pour some in your glass and take a look at the wine. Notice the color. See how, it's pale, but it's also more straw than yellow. That's classic for Peno Gggio. Wooded Chardonnays, we're going to look for more yellow hues, but here we've got straw. Very pale, very pretty, and it's clear and bright. Clear and bright is always very important because it suggests the wine is stable. Shelf stable is vital. It's a first indication of quality, which we'll look for also on the nose. So it should be nice and clean. So give it a swirl and a good sniff. Isn't that nice? It just smells pure and clean. It's not fruit forward. We are in the old world here. This is Collavini Villa Canlungo. Also, just an aside, the Collavini family has been, they've been making this wine for generations. I think it's 4 generations now. And the Canlungo means long dog because the family has dachshunds. That's what they, that's their dog, that's their pet. And so you can see it on the label. So going back to the nose, notice the elegance. Not forward, but pure, very clean fruited. Let's have a sip. Let it sweep in and first just experience the wine and see if it gives you that, quick lick of refreshment you'd want to give guests. Isn't that lovely? It's like a gust of wind. Beautiful. Love that. Nothing stands out. It's not going to upstage any moment, but it's absolutely going to lift the occasion and refresh the palate. And it's also bone dry. This is a bone dry Peno Gggio. Focus on the tip of the tongue and let's look at that closely. That is the best place to determine sweetness or to detect sweetness. Let's have a sip and do that together. Notice that? No sugar. Now this says, I think, around 2 grams per liter, 3 grams per liter of sugar. So it is bone dry. And that keeps it quenching, keeps the palate fresh because too much sugar in a wine can tire the palate. So this keeps it fresh. Also, lots of acidity, but balanced by lots of fruit stuffing too. So it's not shrill or stark when you sip it. It just tastes, crisp, refreshing. So have another sip. We'll focus on the sides of the tongue, or the sides of the palate, and you'll notice just how much your mouth waters. That's how to isolate acidity. It's pronounced. You don't notice it when you're just sipping it, but if you do that, you realize this is a high acid wine, and that keeps everything upright. It keeps it lit tasting. Let's have one more sip and we're just going to see how it tastes. So whether we're just getting the fruit we found on the nose or whether there's more illusions going on. Isn't that interesting? I'm tasting, yes, the primary fruit, but there's more. There's a subtle stoniness and there's also a subtle sort of salinity on the finish too. It's not like olive, but it's more saline, like a sea spray note on the finish. And that lingers on the finish and it leaves the palate beautifully seasoned, which means you can serve this with all sorts of finger foods, and the seasoning, the salt seasoning, is just going to make everything taste a little bit better. So this is a great value wine, and it's the kind of wine that is perfect for those casual entertaining moments when you just want something that's just going to elevate everything perfectly. And the second one in our flight is a wooded Chardonnay from California called Ghost Pines Winemaker's Blend. Now this is a 2020 vintage. It's young, it's fresh, and it's widely available. I think it sells for around $24 in Canada and around $20 in the US. So it's affordable, a little bit more expensive than the last wine, and it's a wine I think you'll like. So pour a glass and take a look. Notice the color. Far more yellow than the last wine, not straw, but yellow with sort of golden inflections. Maybe white gold, yellow gold. Very clear, very bright, which you'd expect. Suggests stability. Give it a swirl and a sniff. So much going on. Buttered popcorn. Buttery notes, sort of like little bit of caramel, like caramel apple. So confected notes, toastiness. The apple is the expression of the fruit with a little bit of lemon and a little bit of nuttiness too going on. We do know that this wine was partially fermented in, like they had different lots, and they fermented part in stainless steel, part in French oak, and part in American oak, and then they blended together. So they created a wine that's quite complex that way. So that's what we're finding on the nose. So have a sip and we'll see how it expresses itself on the palate. Isn't that beautiful? Sweeps in, juicy and saturated, and yet broad too, but lifted by acidity and long. And it cascades with all sorts of nuances. This has some complexity going on, which keeps the interest. So on the entry or the attack, you're getting the primary fruit, the zippy lemon and apple, cooked apple maybe, but then it starts, cascading with things like nuts, buttercream, toffee, buttered toast. And on the finish for me, it's buttered popcorn. So have a sip and let's see how that expresses itself and whether you were getting all of that. Beautiful. And I love the texture of this wine too. So tip of the tongue shows that there's a hint of residual sugar. Do you notice that? Now there's around 4.5 grams per liter, which is just enough to polish it up and make it taste round and shiny, almost glossy, and that is why. There's also lots of acidity, which keeps everything upright and uplifted and refreshing, and the finish lingers. That persistence is beautiful because it's going to bridge to whatever you're pouring it with. And this is the kind of wine that would work well cocktail style. You don't really need to eat with it, but it would work really well with hot buttered popcorn. And it would work really well at the table if you're pouring something with a cream sauce. So it works exceptionally well with fettuccine alfredo with really good Parmesan Reggiano, or even something like, pan-fried chicken with a lemon cream sauce. Fantastic. So versatile wine, quality wine, and it's Ghost Pines. So it might work also for that Halloween party. And the third wine in our flight is the Collavini Cabernet Sauvignon. It's also the Villa Canlungo wine, which is a testament again to the dog of the family. But this is a wine that I like because of the versatility. Now this is Cabernet Sauvignon, so an international style, but it is Italian made, and I like how it hovers between old world style and charm, that earthiness, and new world accessibility. So it's a kind of wine that will appeal to everybody. The price won't break the bank at around $14 or $15, and I think it's a wine you can count on. So pour a glass and let's look at the color. Notice the depth of color. Now that's key because a dark wine for many people is consoling. It makes them think it's not going to be too challenging because there's probably going to be roundness or fruit stuffing. And so here we've got lots of color. Give it a swirl and a sniff. I also like the nose because the thing about this nose is it's bang on what everyone expects Cabernet to smell like. It smells like blackcurrant and cassis. Do you get that? Blackcurrant, cassis, maybe a hint of black raspberry, black cherry, something like that, but absolutely pure fruited berries. I love that. And the other thing about this is the nose also has a hint of earthiness, sort of a dustiness going on. Do you notice that? That takes you to Italy. Reds from Italy always have that earthy charm, and that's there. It's not just fruity. So that therefore gives a layer of sophistication to the wine that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise get for a wine that's $15. So now let's have a sip and see how it expresses itself on the palate. Isn't that lovely? It just sweeps in, saturated, pure, wonderful articulation of flavor. You're getting everything we found on the nose, all of those specific berries, but they're chiseled. Black raspberry, yes. Black cherry, yes. Black currant, as well as that drizzle of cassis that gives it a certain depth of flavor, a concentration, and that makes it easy to enjoy cocktail style, even if you're not engaging in food. You know, you can enjoy this glass by glass with a nibble. Yes, it's Italian, but you don't need to drink it with food. This is also light in body. I think it's, yes, 12.5% alcohol, which is light. Now let's have another sip and we'll just focus on the structure. Tip of the tongue tells us it's not bone dry. I think this has around 5 or 6 grams per liter of sugar. And you notice that when you're focusing there. And what that does is it enhances the accessibility. Because not everybody likes bone dry wines. It can be austere, it can be challenging to many palates. But the rest of the wine, the earthiness, the structure, makes it also appealing to those who know wine, who expect something dry, because it presents as dry. But it's round, great acidity, holds up the fruit, keeps it refreshing, and yet there's a finish too. What I love is the finish is not sweet. The finish is savory. It's almost a clay-like note, as well as a hint of pink peppercorn. So this is the kind of wine that I would love to serve with that charcuterie board or cheese for sure. But it also works really well with broiled mushroom caps. That's the secret. Serve that wine with this and everyone will be happy. And the last wine in our flight is a big, bold red by a guy from California named Orin. He produces big reds and has a cult-like following. The wine we're tasting today is his Palermo. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, which is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley, and it's a 2021 vintage. So pour yourself a glass, and I think you'll notice the color. Notice how deep and dark that is. I mean, that is a black wine that narrows to a very narrow purple rim. It's young, it's dense, it's concentrated, and I think you'll find it's very bold. On the nose, isn't that heady? Lots of dark fruit, but it's not too fruit forward. So it's more blueberry than anything else, sort of a wild blueberry from the fruit perspective. Drizzled with cassis, yes, but it doesn't smell confected at all. Notice that? Slate, dry gravel, toasted tobacco, almonds, but burnt almonds, and maybe dark chocolate, but bitter chocolate. All of that sort of thing. Hint of espresso even. So every time you reapproach this wine, it offers something different. And that's the complexity that can be imparted from Cabernet Sauvignon, especially at this level. Now, this is a wine that sells for around, $76 in Canada and around $70 in the US. So it's not inexpensive, but it has cachet and it has that sort of depth that you might look for if you're serving something special at a celebratory meal, especially this season when, it might be cold outside and you're roasting a joint of beef or rib roast or something special like that. So let's have a sip and just let's experience the wine before we get technical. Big, bold. That is a fistful of power. It's a thunderclap wine for sure. But it's not just one hit. It lingers. It tapers slowly and lingers. I am still tasting it. The finish is long, persistent. And we know that this was a wine that is spent, I think it spent almost a year in oak. So part of it was new, part of it was old. But the point is that it gives depth. It gives complexity. And we're finding that with this wine. So this is a wine that, 15.2% alcohol, and that it's balanced. You don't taste the alcoholic heat at the back of the palate at all because there's so much lush fruit, but it means it's a full-bodied wine. You like it? I do, but it's definitely serious. So let's have a sip, and we'll just see how it's expressing itself to us. Goes on and on and on. It's interesting because it's almost kaleidoscopic. It changes so quickly. Every little thing, every little nuance changes so quickly. So first you're getting the blueberry, you're getting cassis, you're getting toasted almond. You're getting slate or that stoniness for sure. A little bit of clay, yes. Toasted tobacco, and then quickly shifts to burnt nut. There's also a little bit of red fruit, which keeps everything upright, it juxtaposes the brawny muscularity with that lifted elegance. Now this is not terribly elegant, but there's that lift that keeps it tasting bright, refreshing, and it is bone dry. There's no residual sugar that's going to tire your palate or stay on the palate, which is why your palate, notice your palate feels scraped clean right now. And the tannins are finely grained and very polished. So there's none of that drying tug sensation around the gums, which you would get from highly tannic wines. This has a structure that's almost velvety. And I love that. Now this is, there's enough tannic structure to hold up the fruit and give enough grip that it would work well with meat, protein dishes. It's not going to be lost with those dishes, but it's not unpleasant. Have another sip. Let's see how the finish, how we experience the finish. Because with a wine like this, the finish is so important because it's going to bridge to whatever we're having at the table. And to me, this is absolutely a table wine. This is not the kind of wine you want to serve without food. Entry, arc, cascade, finish. Black olive, black espresso, burnt nut, hint of vanilla but savory, on and on and on, finishing with salt and pepper. I love that. This is a kind of wine I would absolutely serve with a special meal with a really good piece of meat. So there you have it. 4 wines for fall entertaining that are perfect for a range of occasions, from that casual drop-in to that special celebratory meal. Which one did you like best? Hit me up on social. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps my channel. And I can't wait to come back with another flight of delicious wines here on Carolyn's Tasting Room so you can drink better and learn how.